Hey, Sox fans, welcome to Good Guys Talk Back, episode 205. I am Nick Murawski, and this is a fan-centric Chicago White Sox podcast. You can find this podcast absolutely everywhere you find your podcast. We are recording live on our YouTube channel. You can consume it that way. As well. Pass this along to other Sox fans in your life. We do appreciate it, as we are on Twitter at Good Guys TV. We've got a Facebook fan page, all that good stuff. This is season 5, believe it or not. And to talk about all this stuff that's been happening, virtually almost nothing with the Chicago White Sox, my dear friend and a diehard Sox fan, Pat Hester. Hello, sir.
Hey, bud. Do we ever get to talk about anything good? Or is it all? Is there anything good?
No.
Is there any good news to talk about?
You Sox fans will not talk about anything positive.
And by the way, I've never, I didn't notice it, I guess, until, I started being a little bit on Twitter. I'm not I'm not much of a tweeter like you are. You're Mr. Tweet.
Oh, sure.
Going on
I'm everywhere.
All the time.
Yep,
and
absolutely.
Pizza's tweeting it, running, tweeting it. That's how Nick Murawski rolls. Getting ready for the 108 tournament.
No,
and
of course,
I don't know that I remember White Sox fans hating their team as much as they have. There's a lot of and no one's spared. And I get the owner. Everybody hates the owner.
Nobody's spared. Who's the one that caught the wrath that you were surprised about this?
No, I just surprising that everybody hates the team. The players all suck. None of them are any good. And the ownership sucks, which we know. GM is terrible, which we know. President is bad. We know. Nobody likes anybody. Every day I turn around, everybody's tweeting, I hate this guy. That guy sucks. We're going to do this. This sucks. Suck.
Yeah.
Man alive.
Yeah. Well, this attitude's been going on for a while. It hasn't been a good off season, Pat.
No, it hasn't. And I part of me gets it, but geez Louise, a lot of negativity.
Yeah. Well, we're going to get to, we got, spring training is coming right around the corner here, and we got some folks that are going to be there. And
can I tell you that how jealous I am of you right now? Because we haven't seen the sun in about 3 years, and you're going to go out and just be, you're going to be in your element.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll be bringing a 9-month-old, so you just need to just pump the brakes on how jealous you are for me. Just like be mindful of that I'm not just going to be, what do you think I'm going to be doing? Bedtime's going to be at 8 o'clock.
I figured you wake up, you say, Vinny, the little one, Vinny, take care of mom. I'm going to scout, and you just go out scouting all day.
Well, I've got the ability, and anybody does that goes to spring training. You can get there for the practices. You can get there early. I'll have a clipboard. I'll have binoculars. Because you have to really get to know some of these players, because they, the odd numbers, the higher numbers, you don't know who some of these people are. So you got to really get down. You got to get down there on field level. And you're there, might as well put the work in, get your money's worth, for goodness sakes.
I just figured you tell your beautiful bride, I'm out. I'll see you later. I got a lot to report on, a lot to uncover, stories to unhatch. Lots to do when you're the host of 2 major podcasts.
Yeah. What I want to watch is when they say in spring training, and by they, I mean Pedro Grifol and his fine coaching staff that he's assembled, when they ask and they're like, so Eloy, you'll be DHing this game. And he just says, no. It's like that Scottie Pippen situation where, was it Pippen that decided he didn't want to play?
Yeah, it was 0.8 seconds. He said, sitting it out.
Was it because he wasn't going to get the ball? It was Tony Kukoc that was going to get the ball?
Yes. And then Tony hit the shot.
Yeah. So. I feel like we'll get to that Jimenez stuff and his it sounds like refusal, though I'm exaggerating, to be a DH, and what Ozzie had to say, which I loved. I love what Ozzie Guillen said, the response to that. But first, Pat, you got to talk about the hot signing, that first signing almost immediately when the offseason started. Got to get to this guy. You got to lock this guy up. He's going to return to accustomed levels. Everybody's talking about him, is Mike Clevenger. And what has gone on with Mike Clevenger this past week, it's a real shame. I mean, that's all you have to say about it. It's a shame with all the different parties involved and where the Sox go from here. I don't know. I don't know if they know. We're still waiting on a lot of stuff, but it's just a shame at this point.
Well, it's well. First of all, as a husband and a father, as you are a husband and a father, it's sick. It's terrible. And if the alleged accusations are true, then there's no, he's not going to be on this ball club. I don't even know. You can't do this. Okay. You can't just cut bait with them right now, because that sets a very, you go down a very slippery slope for the future, and you're going to have a lot of problems with the Players Association, right? Because if you start getting rid of guys before they are proven guilty, that's it's going to be hairy for you, and you're going to look like an organization that doesn't stick up for your players. And you know what it made me think of right away? This whole thing. And again, I've got no love for Mike Clevenger. I hope, there's a dark place in hell for a guy like him, if this is all true. But it made me think for a brief moment. You remember the issue that Patrick Kane had years ago?
Yeah.
And it was proven to be, it was not true. And Kane went through a lot of issues because of it. And a lot of people wanted Kane to be gone, right? As soon as they heard this, get rid of him. He's a rapist, all this stuff that came out about him. So you have to let the process play out. And the people that just say, oh, if I close my eyes and wake up tomorrow and this guy's still on my team, this is ridiculous. I'm going to quote, or paraphrase the moron Dan Bernstein, who tweeted that right afterwards. You have to let these things play out. Now, were the Sox, did they do their homework well enough? Probably not, because they don't do many things well enough, Nick. Let's be honest, right? And they didn't know because MLB doesn't have to tell them when their people are being investigated. There's a lot of all that sticky stuff that's tied to all this. But the main thing is it's a little curious looking back of how he got signed so quickly, right? Mm-hmm. It was the first offer he probably got, and his agent said, we're going to take this and we'll worry about all this other stuff later, but we're going to take this first offer right now. And so that's a little strange, because usually the Sox aren't first to sign anybody to anything ever. So yeah, it's bad, Nick. It's a really, really hairy situation, but I'm not going to condemn the Sox at this point for not getting rid of him until, the full investigation is done and he's proven guilty. Am I wrong for thinking that?
No, I see where you're going, and there's actually some information that has come out recently from an article by James Fegan in The Athletic that would, in a way, almost prevent the White Sox from, disciplining Mike Clevenger right now. And again, if you just haven't been following, last week we found out that Mike Clevenger is being investigated for domestic violence and child abuse. There was a big write-up in The Athletic, and going into some very unfortunate detail. And this is what Fegan had to say. League policy prevents the team from disciplining Clevenger right now. Per MLB and MLBPA's joint domestic violence, sexual assault, and child abuse policy, the commissioner's office holds the authority to discipline players in violation of the policy. Therefore, the White Sox would not be authorized to discipline Clevenger prior to the completion of the investigation, unless the commissioner's office transferred that authority to the team according to the policy. Releasing Clevenger before the completion of the investigation would likely be construed as grounds for a grievance. So the White Sox hands are tied pretty much as they are waiting. And as this plays out, and it's just a mess, they're scrambling to figure out, what are we going to do here? How are we reimagining our starting rotation? There's not a lot of options left out there. Zach Greinke, Waka, Johnny Cueto's off the board. There's several that could maybe have helped out. I'm not saying Greinke or Walker are going to put us all of a sudden, at the top of the AL Central or the AL Elite for sure, it's going to be in-house. You're looking at guys like Davis Martin and Burke, and it's just personally, I don't think Clevenger ever pitches for the White Sox. I really don't think so. I don't know how long these investigations go. We've got pitchers and catchers reporting 2 days after the Super Bowl, something like that. So
Yeah.
a little bit more than 2 weeks. It's just now the White Sox claim they didn't know anything about this when they signed Clevenger hot and heavy right out of the gates at the beginning of the offseason. And, maybe they didn't, but the due diligence, you wonder, did you make those extra calls? I feel like if you followed some social media threads here and there, now by the White Sox making extra calls and trying to kick the tires on things, did they feel like they were going to be exposing their hand, so to speak? Were other executives going to say, oh, they're asking around about Clevenger, looks like they're interested in signing, we better get our affairs in order? I don't know. Does that make any sense?
I don't know. I mean, if you're going, it's Mike Clevenger, for crying out loud. If somebody else wanted him, they could have went and got him as well. I don't think that has anything to. I don't see anything there. It's just another story in the long list of just a bad off season, right? And nothing has gone right for them, and partially, some of it is not their fault. I'm talking about with like Liam Hendricks, with that whole situation, that story. That's not a Sox fault thing. That's just a bad story and unfortunate and really sad, right? But everything else is self-made, right? Their lack of aggression, their lack of being able to actually make one of these trades that was talked about, the lack of a Sox Fest, the lack of doing anything that's going to improve your club, and you're just looking at the, again, like you've always said, you're looking at the rest of the division and going, we can compete with the Twins and with Cleveland with what we have, and we'll take our chances rather than leave no doubt. Let's go after it. Let's act like the big boys we should be in this city. So it's just a really, really, and again, going back to my long rant as we jumped into this, the reason why everybody in this fan base is so down right now. When you look at it, if you stripped it away a little bit and looked at the sum of the parts, you go, man, I could see where we could have a positive year out of this guy. And I'm really excited to see what this guy is going to do. And if you look at the 4 starting pitchers, there are, they're decent pitchers. We have maybe some projects to look at in the bullpen, but we should probably be a pretty good team, and you should be somewhat excited about the season still, because it's not going to be a 70-win ball club. You wouldn't imagine. You would imagine it'd be about 20 wins better, you would think, right? With this talent.
I think this team could win 90 games.
I do too, for sure. But it doesn't feel like this is a fan base that's looking at this team going in and possibly winning this division.
Well, look at what we have been subjected to. It's very difficult to stay positive. And I really tried to make a commitment when we turned the calendar and entered 2023. I'm going to try to put the 2022 season in the past. I'm going to try to be positive until I'm given reasons to not be. And the Clevenger was a big blow to my positivity. It really was. It's not an injury. It's not, some sort of, pulled pectoral muscle or, some kind of, ruptured hamstring that I hope we don't see, at Camelback Ranch or throughout spring training. But it just was not something that anybody was anticipating. It was like, I wasn't high on Clevenger to begin with, and I'm not trying to beat a guy when he's down here, but it's like, man, I didn't get the signing. It didn't make sense to me. After talking to the host of Locked On Padres and questioning him about, well, why didn't the Padres, try to bring back Mike Clevenger? He was there. Why not bring him back, re-sign him? Padres are throwing money around. And talking to him a little bit, and some of it was off air after we had recorded, it just sounded like there was a lot of character issues with this guy. And, he had a beef with Fernando Tatis Jr. And, you can go back to the to the COVID thing with Plesac and Cleveland, and then Cleveland shipped him right out to San Diego. It just, I got the impression that there was some character vibes. You know, could that have been vetted by the Chicago White Sox? Maybe. I think their due diligence is flawed. I mean, they don't do a lot of things right, as you said. Now you have to figure out what now. Like what now? Really, where do you go?
I mean,
the longer this drags on, it just becomes, it becomes a focal point, right? Because this thing might not wrap up before spring training. So Clevenger's going to be there at Camelback Ranch.
Yeah. Which is going to be really fun and awkward for the rest of the team to answer any questions. I don't know if he'll be made available. I doubt he would be, right? If he's under investigation, you can't have him available to the media to speak, and he's not going to be able to say anything.
I don't think he would. No, legally. He's not going to be able to. No.
It'll be really just a terrible distraction, an unfortunate situation, not from the baseball standpoint, but from a human standpoint, it's just sick and terrible. And anyway, but in terms of what you do with your starting rotation, I mean, we had talked about Ronaldo Lopez being a closer. He was a guy that started for this ball club before, Nick. Is that a guy that you turn back to in this type of situation, stretch him back out to try and have him be your fifth starter?
I would lean against that right now. At this stage in the game, I think with the fact that we're going to need bullpen arms, right? I would keep him in the role that he's comfortable with, but I still think he can vouch for, I should say, for a closer spot, even though he has no experience. He has 0 saves in his career, opposed to somebody like Kendall Graveman, who's got, more than a handful, but still, I think he's pretty inexperienced. I think you're looking at Davis Martin. I really do. I mean, the last time we saw Davis Martin, it was the last game of the season. He completely imploded against the Twins, and he left the game, I believe, with some forearm soreness. And I haven't heard much after that.
That all sounds about right.
It sounds like we're in we're in it here. He had flashes. I mean, Davis Martin showed you some stuff. You got Sean Burke, you got Matthew Thompson. Fegan has written about, some of the other arms you might need to look to, as has Scott Merkin, and of course, the White Sox website. There's some arms out there. There are some young arms. Are they ready? I don't know. I would think Martin, if he's healthy, if whatever forearm issue he had figured out, I would say Davis Martin would probably be the guy, in my opinion, to take in that fifth spot.
Yeah, I wonder if it changes the plan, accelerates the plan maybe for Garrett Crochet. I obviously he's not going to be ready to start by the beginning of this year, and I don't know if he can log enough to be ready towards the back half of the year to start for you. But that would have been the perfect scenario, right? To just say, okay, we're going to go with Garrett Crochet. But I can't see that happening. But I wonder if this at all changes, the timetable on him. I think they were probably targeting next year as a possible, start for him. But do you try and accelerate that in any way, or is that crazy?
I don't think you can do it this year, based on nothing last year, right? Recovering from Tommy John. You can look towards next year, I guess, but Liam Hendricks obviously is highly questionable. Like, we don't know what the timetable is on Liam Hendricks, and the thing that we want for him is health and get all that right. Baseball is secondary. So, like, we need that arm in the bullpen, right? We need Lopez to stay in the bullpen, I would assume. It's a mess right now, trying to figure this out. The farm system isn't terribly deep, and it makes people really question, well, how much do I want to invest in this team now? I was on the fence, and now this Clevenger stuff came up, and you got single game tickets going on sale February 2nd. I know so many people, I'm sure you do too, that have completely opted out of their season tickets, even if they had just a 10-game plan. And I haven't met anybody that's just cannot wait to get in line, to buy extra tickets, aside from some of the novelty, giveaway games, which draw anyway, because they're on the weekend and it's usually against a favorable opponent or something. But the White Sox are a tough sell right now. We this was supposed to be our time. This was supposed to be our time to take over the city.
Do you think there's any chance in hell that this team tries to do something before tickets go on sale to try and have some type of positive mojo going into that window when tickets go on sale?
Man, in terms of a player acquisition, I would say no.
There's nothing out there that's flashy enough that's going to really juice everybody up. There might be some type of crazy trade situation that happens, but I don't think that materializes. You can't just make a trade happen. You haven't done anything yet to this point anyway. But, I just wonder if that crosses their mind as far as management goes. Look, we've got to do something to create some goodwill with our fan base and get people excited about buying tickets to come see our product.
Yeah. The most positive thing that has happened this offseason, and I would say the Benintendi thing was positive. I like that move. It's unfortunate it was like the only move to be made, but they answered something, and I don't mind Benintendi at all. But, just a couple days ago, they made the announcement that Jason Benetti and Steve Stone are coming back into the booth, which was a huge question mark for the majority of the offseason. I mean, it really felt like, that wasn't going to happen anymore. Like that they were going to go elsewhere. And, they made a big announcement about it, and multi-year option for Benetti, entering his 8th year, man, as a member of the Sox broadcast team. Stone's coming back for his 16th year with the White Sox. Where has time gone?
No kidding.
But, that doesn't help somebody that's going to the game, because they're not watching from home, so viewership might be up. A lot of people I know love the telecast. Great chemistry. I've had some problems with what's in the bucket and some other goofy things that Benetti tries to do, but he's trying to make light of, a horrible team this past year. And I do love the Stone Benetti relationship. I think they play well off each other. They're having fun. It comes across. And if you listen to some other broadcast teams, whether you're flipping through on the MLB extra innings package, if you have it, wow, there are some rough teams out there. So
you ever listen to a Tigers broadcast?
Oh man, it maybe years ago.
Holy moly.
Yeah.
Talk about wanting to go to sleep. Good Lord. The only reason I know this is because watching a Sox game in Detroit, it was like you got the out of town. I was out of town, and what I got on TV was the Tigers broadcast.
Sure, yeah,
man, tough listen.
There's some tough ones out there. We've got one of the best right now. Benetti can do it all, and Stone is an outstanding resource. I love listening to him. Talk about especially young pitchers and what they're going through and building themselves up, and secondary pitches that they need to work on. And when something's not going right, how they can fix it and how quickly they need to fix it, what their timeline is like. So they're coming back. I mean, that's a positive thing. I can't imagine if they were not coming back. Can you even fathom, where things would go if that were the case? You don't want to. So, I mean, that's a good thing. I just, in terms of doing something drastic, I mean, you could do other things. Like, I feel like around this time, several years ago, and I could be off by a month or two, they announced that they were going to be retiring Mark Burley's number, and it, that got you excited for the summer. I think there were going to be other events maybe around that. And of course you had the big, Mark Burley Day where he was actually there and they had the whole ceremony. I was at the game. They eventually got smoked by the Oakland Athletics, which, no surprise there. But, you do something big like that. You make one of those announcements, like we're going to retire Ozzie Guillen's number, or, there's going to be a Burley statue this summer that we're going to unveil, or we're going to be honoring the 93 team all year with these different events and, promotions. I don't see that happening. I think this is, I get the impression, from the No Sox Fest and the way the front office has responded to last season. Jerry doesn't care, and not like that's in a surprise to anybody. They don't care. You think he cares what fans are thinking if they're having a good time? I mean, he's giving you those 500 level bars, Pat. He knocked off 3 rows in a couple areas on the upper deck. So if you wander up there, you can get yourself a Blue Moon or a High Life and catch some of the game from different angles at these new little bars. Did you read about this?
Yeah, I did read about it. It's beyond ridiculous. I mean, here let's talk about something was a funny narrative a while back, Nick. The thought that Jerry Reinsdorf at his advanced age now would be extra motivated to try and get one more World Series before, he checked out. And I think it's ridiculous. Obviously he's proven otherwise. I don't know how much older he'd have to get to actually get motivated to try and win one. Maybe he thinks he'll live till I don't know, like 150 or something.
I don't think I don't even think it's an age thing or whoa, wow. Oh my, I got to get my acting gear here. Time's ticking. I don't think it's ever been there. It's never been, I think, a pressing issue of, I've got the money. I want championships. Like the Sox have never been a proactive.
Oh, I know. And that's why I think it's hilarious that was an actual narrative that was out there, that he'll be extra motivated. That's why I wanted to go out and get Tony, because he was the best, aside from trying to right a wrong by letting him go. Like we need the absolute best mind in baseball that's ever lived. And we got to do this.
That was his idea.
That was his idea.
That's like when Mr. Burns was trying to get his softball team together and he was like rattling off these players that Smithers informed him, I think, were dead already for like 20 or 30 years. Someone should have sat Reinsdorf down, if that's even possible, and said, yeah, that's an idea. You had an idea. Tony La Russa. All right, let's table that. There are other great minds out there right now, if you're really looking to win a championship, in this window. But I don't think that was the case. It was, I want to do this because I want to right a wrong. And, that was a great mind years ago. And La Russa's in the Hall of Fame for obvious reasons. He's got 3 World Series. What he's done for the game, you can't question, but that was not the right hire. And I just don't think Reinsdorf has ever, been, I'm going to win. I'm going to buy a championship. How about that? I'm going to do something that, Padres owners, Mets owners, Phillies owners are doing right now. You might not get the championship, but you're not going to fault me for not trying.
Well, and I think that's the most frustrating part. It just seems like there's a lack of trying. There's a lack of trying from, and you talked about usually a very, a good group in the marketing department, right? With, we're going to do this and this and this. I don't know where Brooks Boyer's been. I don't know what Rick Hahn has been doing. Where is Kenny Williams? What are these people doing all day long?
Brooks Boyer he's all over this 500 level bar. Can I read you this little blurb from the Sun Times?
Are we going to sit up there in this 500 level bar? You and I at some point?
I mean, the renderings
broadcast live up there.
That's what he should do. Brooks Boyer should get a hold of all the fan podcasts out there, and we should all get a crack at doing a live show up in these 500 levels to christen them. So this
all at the same time. That would be a good listen, and with some speakers going at the same time. Fantastic.
Well, I have thought of, like, we should do like a Sox podcast fest. So everybody that's got a Sox podcast, we all get together and have, kind of a festival, fan fest type of thing. And we can do matchups, with other podcasts, having each other on right there doing live shows. This is a brainchild of mine.
Like a podcast off, like we're
sure.
Just say
Sure.
like screaming at
Contest.
another podcast.
Yes.
Okay.
All different kinds of war of words, but we could all
Okay.
be up here in this 500 level bar. So the subtitle here of this, so White Sox share plans for new 500 level bars, and this was in the Sun Times, and underneath the headline here, the Sox and I can't even get through it because this is so on brand. The Sox initially had bigger plans for the bars, but when it applied for a building permit in September, but the bars were simplified afterward to meet the budget. So they
Oh,
had these.
goodness gracious!
So
Are
they
you
had
kidding me?
they had these grand plans of what they were going to do with these 500 level bars. It's going to be. Oh, and the White Sox are funding the project themselves.
Oh,
So
good.
there you go.
Oh, so what did they have to do? There's no stools, or there's no sinks behind the bars. Did they meet budget that way?
It's all rudimentary. So the sinks are those pedal sinks that you'll see at
Oh, okay.
farm festivals,
Mhm.
October festivals, where you stand on a pedal and the water comes out, and
Good Lord.
it's just a bucket with a curtain. You ever go to like an Old Navy or Banana Republic, and it's popular in the city, and the dressing room is like in the middle of the store, and you just pull a curtain.
Yeah.
So that's your bathroom. Is there a bucket and there's a
Oh, okay.
curtain, and you
Nice.
just to meet budget, of course.
I wonder if there's refrigeration to keep the drinks cold, or it'll be like they'll say it's retro or European style and just
It's
room
European
temperature.
style.
Yeah, we went really fancy. We're going Euro style,
Yeah.
and it's going to be 57-degree beers. It'll be great.
Yeah, it's just a BYOB, but you have to buy the beer in the stadium and walk it up to the 500
Oh,
level.
okay.
This is just somewhere where you can congregate and talk to other people at a baseball game away from the game.
Or maybe you don't earn your keep, right? You want to come up and drink
like
here,
a
you gotta
fantasy camp.
Yeah, you come up, you stock the bar. You
Yeah.
bring up a case. You come up the 500 level. They'll give you a case of beer to bring up with you, and then
Yeah.
you get up there and you stock the the cooler, and then you sit down and you could have one.
That should be a thing somewhere. This is all just like a co-op of pretend like you are at somebody's basement bar, and we're all drinking, but whatever you drink, fill up. You drank someone else's beer, replenish it. How would that go over, you think? I'm sure everyone would be playing by the rules.
I think we're just giving them free ideas now, Nick.
Oh,
I
you
think
think
we
so?
shouldn't be pumping this out to millions of
Mhm.
people. Keep
Well,
these
look,
ideas
they're
to
on a
ourselves
budget. They're on a
we own the
budget.
team.
Of course, of course. So look, that was the big thing, man. That was the big thing in terms of the stadium. I'm still trying to figure out what they're doing in Lot B. It's like Bollard Mania, the amount of security posts they're putting up around Lot B. They must have gotten a tip that there's people are going to be just trying to drive into the stadium out of anger.
Have you watched Twitter lately? I think they're like, okay, we're not doing Sox Fest. People are going to be really angry at us. We
got a set of bollards
Yeah.
absolutely everywhere. I think people are just going to take their complaints right into the Shy Sox Bar and Grill and just drive their car right in. We've got to protect this beauty of a stadium here. I don't know what's happening with that. So to make matters more interesting, right field has been a mess for many, many years. And we have been told this offseason, not in the bullish phrase, but in other ways that Rick Hahn likes to craft, that Oscar Colas will definitely get his shot at right field. He'll have an opportunity to earn it. It's not going to be handed to him, but you get the feeling, like this is the guy that they want to bring in and they want to give a shot to. And Grifol kind of said similar stuff on the Score recently. However, Lurie Garcia might also be roaming out there as well. And then you've also got the fleet of foot Gavin Sheets. But don't forget that Eloy Jimenez is going to be taking some reps out there. Grifol himself has asked Eloy Jimenez to practice out there. So this past week, I don't know if you saw it, he went to the media. He had like a media day. I don't know if he called the meetings, but he needed to make it known that he is not going to just be a DH. He is putting his hat in the ring for right field. He's been working hard and he wants to help the team. And he almost just can't accept the fact that he'd be a DH. So there you have it. The fact that the Sox could not figure out right field, kept that wide open. Now you've created this situation, White Sox. If you would have found a veteran, proven right fielder, we could have put this whole thing to rest. But you didn't. So now you got maybe Lurie Garcia roaming out there. You got Eloy Jimenez and a guy that's got, 30 at-bats in AAA. He could be your starting right fielder.
Oh, well,
It's just...
okay. So let's take it this way. I'll give Eloy a lot of credit. He's trying. Right, he's not just rolling over.
Doing the work. I'm baby stepping. I'm doing the work.
Now he may have zero talent. He may suck out there as he sucked in left field. But if he's going to put in the work, good for you. All right, I appreciate that. Just trying not to try so hard. That's all I can say because he's going to get himself hurt. And I don't know.
Then he shouldn't be. Then I'm sorry. Then he shouldn't be out there. If the message is just try to not get hurt, more likely than not, you're going to get hurt, right? Because you're going to be thinking about that constantly, and you can't do it, right? We have a sample size now, and if you want to help the team, the best way to help the team is with your bat, is to be a DH. And if you get hurt swinging a bat or running out a ground ball, then hey, egg on our face, but we at least tried to set you up for success with just being a DH.
Yeah, Nick, I mean, it's here we go. I guess we'll see what happens, right? If you put him out there in spring training and he looks god awful, I guess that'll take care of itself, right? And let him go out there, let him try it. What else? You just throw your hands up at this point because
have some fun.
Here's the thing: why are we going to wring our hands and gnash our teeth about it? Because when the manager says, "I want you to be ready to play right field," naturally he's going to say exactly what he said. So there's no reason to be, I guess, upset about it. The fact that Eloy came out and said, I'm going to work hard to be the right fielder and help this team. It's because his manager gave him the endorsement weeks ago.
Yeah. And I wonder if that is top down. That can't be top down. Is that Rick Hahn or somebody saying to Grifol, like, hey, maybe you should come out publicly in favor of Eloy Jimenez. That's so when he is starting, there's been a little bit of a buzz about this. Have you heard? Has everybody heard? Eloy might be playing right field. So Ozzie, and God bless Ozzie, man. He is the
voice of the people.
He really is. And he had an opportunity on the Score 670 recently to speak his mind on this. And I've got his quote right here. This is what Ozzie had to say on this whole matter with Eloy Jimenez trying to play right field. Here's Ozzie. I hope somebody has some guts in the White Sox organization. I got to give him a call, and I think they did. You're going to be the DH. You're going to be the DH. Whether you like it or not, that's all you can do. You prove us wrong for the last 3 years to put you in the outfield. We want you happy. Yes, we do want you happy, but we also want the team better. So Ozzie, classic Ozzie, saying the right thing. I mean, someone has to be the parent. The White Sox have to be the parent in this relationship and say, I know what you want, and that's cute, and that's great, and you're saying the right things, but no, you cannot. And if that was going to be an issue at the beginning of this offseason, going into 2023, then I think you had to cut bait with Eloy Jimenez, and you had to figure out what you could get for him if he's not going to be happy here as DH.
Is it a desperate play to try and get Gavin Sheets at bats at DH and get his bat in the lineup? Because if you were going to go with Colas, then you'd have to have Eloy be your DH. And then what do you do with Gavin Sheets? You don't have a spot for him to get probably enough at bats, either to showcase him or have him be a positive influence on your team. So But then again, I don't understand why they've spent so much time and energy to pump the tires up on an Oscar Colas just to say, well, we're just going to slide Aloy over there and play in right field. And I also don't know, you're talking about, we know his deficiencies in terms of, getting a break on the ball and knowing where he's at on the field and being aware of his surroundings. I don't know what kind of arm Aloy Jimenez has, right? Isn't right field where you should have your strongest arm? I've
Yeah.
always thought that was the case. I
Yeah.
don't know what kind of arm Aloy Jimenez has. Do you?
I don't, and I'm not interested in finding out. And, the way he navigates left field, he's going to have to relearn right field. And, I'm talking about just the ball ricocheting out in the corner and not just guaranteed right field, but he's going to have to figure out on the fly every other ballpark. And everybody's playing everybody this year.
Yeah.
So Daryl Boston, the legend, Daryl Boston, used to be in charge of that.
Boston. He is your favorite person in the world.
Oh my goodness! If they had a Sox Fest and they had a Q&A, I've got thousands of questions already pre-written. But I think one I would just go with is why Daryl Boston? Why did you have to keep him? I mean, you could have just changed everything. And if their comeback was, well, he's just a first base coach, I would have said exactly. He's just a first base coach. Clear him off the board. Let Grifol bring in some other Kansas City Royal fella, and let's
fella, just another fella.
Well, I mean, at this point, it's like we don't know what any of these guys are made of yet. I like that he's been able to bring in a lot of his own coaches, but why? Like, why keep Boston? Boston used to be in charge of outfielders. I think also base running. I don't think they're letting him do the base running anymore.
Boy, he's done a great job at both of those things, hasn't he?
But he might be still with the outfield. Now, what I also want to say to you is throw this into the possible DH blender is what if Grandal just can't catch? What if his legs won't let him? But with the lack of a shift, there's no shift. We like his lefty bat. We want that bat in the lineup. What are you going to do then?
I think it'll be very interesting to see what Yasmani Grandal can do to start spring training. We've talked a little bit before on this podcast about the extensive rehab he's been doing to his body over this offseason. And he himself has talked about the hell he's put himself through to get himself ready. And he already feels stronger and all the positive things we've heard about Yaz. It'll be interesting to see if he can even start spring training and catch games. That's what I want to see. That'll be a telltale sign, Nick, because he's been here 3 years. Has he started in spring training any year?
Not 100%.
No, I think he's missed. He's either missed or been limited in terms of his ability.
I think he might have if things started on time in 2020. I mean, that 2019 year in Milwaukee, he had a really good year, and I understand why they were aggressive and gobbled him up.
But I feel like every year he's come into camp with a knee issue.
Sure,
right? Yeah. And he's not playing today because of the knee, or he's always limited. So, I'm not clamoring for him to catch every inning of spring training, but I guess I'd like to see him answer some questions in spring training, see if he can be out there and be a regular, attendee, right?
Yeah, I got a lot on my plate when I go, Pat. You think I'm just going to be kicking up and just enjoying Arizona and everything it has to offer?
I know you're not. I think you're going to be. You got to be running. You got to run to get in the morning.
I'm going to see if I could sneak in some of their workouts. I think I could be a valuable pinch runner. I really do.
Really? I mean, you're
Maybe
a good
not.
long distance.
Long distance, you're right. Yeah, I don't think I could beat Billy Hamilton in a race. I don't think so.
Well, you need to get yourself up to the kids zone and do the race against Tim Anderson, the electronic Tim Anderson that you run against. Have you been up there before?
I have just to watch.
Wear sneakers, get up there and see if you can race against Tim Anderson. Then you tell me if you can get in a game or not.
Okay. I know it's a popular feature up there. So maybe they should have made another one of those in center field instead of the 500 level bars. Put another kid zone type of interactive
I
thing.
think that would have been great.
You
Yes, I
know,
would have vouched for that over another
something
bar.
else. Anyway, so other positive, and this is, take it with a grain of salt. We know that Roland is getting into the Hall of Fame, and the only one that's going to be in this class. But Mark Burley received, I believe, 10.8%, and he stays on the ballot for another year.
Yeah.
Not anything to get terribly excited about, but as long as he sticks around, I think. But it's always about the class you're in, like who you're up against. I think that could be the problem moving forward. I just think one of these days he's going to get in somehow, some way.
I highly doubt he'll
Wow.
get in at 10.8%. Yeah, I mean
because and some committee down the road, they've got like 8 different committees.
Yeah,
There's like
I don't
a
see
veterans committee. There's a committee of veterans. There's all these different. I think it could happen. Did you ever think Harold Baines was going to get in the Hall of Fame?
No, I didn't think Harold Baines would ever get in the Hall of Fame, but I would be shocked. I mean, personally, I'd love it. I'd be happy for him. I think it'd be well deserved. But knowing how, not knowing how all of them vote, but listening to some of the rationale on the way these guys vote for things, especially as you're the contemplation with the PED guys. Well, I'm not going to vote for him this year, but I'll probably put him in. I'll probably vote next year. And this guy tested positive. So I'm not letting him in, even though I know guys like David Ortiz and Mike Piazza, did, but they're Hall of Famers because they never tested positive, or even Ortiz tested positive, but he's a nice guy. So we'll let him in. And just this, it's crazy. It's 400 writers. Yeah. And from year to year, the thing that makes me like go crazy is you look at somebody, are they a Hall of Famer or not? If the answer is no, then that should be the end of the story. Not, well, maybe we'll let him in this year, or we'll wait till 3 years from now, or we'll see if he's up against a different class of people to get them in. It should just be, look at this player. Is he a Hall of Famer? Right? Then if the answer is yes, then put him in. If the answer is no, then he's out.
Yeah. So you're looking at, and I've been calling for this for years, is like robotic voting.
Oh yeah, more robots, more better.
Well,
let's bring them on.
This is where that's where we're headed. I mean, robot voting. You just put the numbers on a sheet. You feed it into some sort of machine, and it shoots out a yes or a no. Someone can figure that out, and then
I always want any of these computer things or robots that you want. It's got to be like the 1980s style computer, like giant, with the big wheels going in the back, and it takes up like a whole floor in an office building.
Yeah,
and that's the computer we're using for MLB baseball.
For the voting, for the Hall of Fame voting.
For the Hall of Fame voting. And it spits out this little piece of paper like a receipt that you get at the gas station.
Yeah.
And it says yes or no.
Well, I mean, it's black and white then. You don't have all these subjective reasonings, and you have to listen to people's, long-winded stories. It's like, stop it. It's there was a scene in Ghostbusters that I might have referenced. I don't know. We're on episode 205 here, so it's a favorite scene of mine. It might have come up in a previous episode. It's early in the original Ghostbusters, where they're trying to figure out if they can afford the firehouse, which they need the firehouse to get the business going. And Venkman and so Murray and Harold Ramis are talking. They're going to get a loan. Or they're trying to figure out if they can get a loan, and Ramis is on his calculator and he's putting all these numbers in, and Bill Murray just karate chops his hand. Just stop it with the calculations. It's almost like use your gut. Yes or no? Do you want to do this? Are you in or are you out? Stop with all the number crunching. And that's sometimes how I feel about it. Is just give me the answer already.
But you think the longer he hangs around, he's going to get in eventually? Yes. Is that really what you believe in your heart of hearts?
And I do. And the one thing that I have to admit, and everybody, and it's not hard to like uncover this, is he never really sniffed a Cy Young award.
Mhm.
Okay. But everything else is he checks all the boxes, and his longevity. I mean, he was a durable pitcher for a long stretch. You look at the Gold Gloves, you look at the World Series, you look at the All-Star games, the no-hitter, the perfect game. He didn't have a Cy Young award, and I don't even know if he was in the top like 5 voting. He wasn't there. He didn't have the strikeouts. He wasn't that power pitcher. But the durability, for a long period of time, that's where I think I could see some committee looking at eventually. I can just see it.
I'm not going to say you're crazy, because crazier things have happened, but I just I would have to believe that he'll be in the Hall of Very Good.
Okay, that's fine. And that's fine. And it's all subjective anyways.
Yeah.
It's like there are people shaking their fists at the Roland situation. Why Roland? Why not Dale Murphy? Like,
Yeah.
you're telling me Todd Helton missed by 11 votes and all of a sudden he's done? He's got to wait on some other committee. It is a maddening process. I get it.
But it creates a lot of discussion and controversy, and that's what it gives us something to talk about, I suppose.
But just gave us 12 minutes of material. It's wonderful. One other last little thing that I just, boy, man, the crazy stuff came out this past week. So we heard about the Nick Madrigal rumors. Oh boy, Cubs, I don't know what they're going to do with him. He wants to play third base. If anybody's ever watched him for a period of time and has watched his arm closely, he'd have to use the pitcher as a relay man. I don't know.
That would be a great way to. I would love to see that.
Utilize it. Go ahead and utilize it, Nick, if you want to play third base over there. I don't know what is going to happen with him, but he's not a free agent, obviously. Like, he is somebody that the Sox would have to give somebody up for, and I don't know if that's worth it. Josh Harrison has signed now recently with the Phillies, a contender. They brought him on board. A rumor came across this past week from Ken Rosenthal that the Sox are potentially looking at Nicky Lopez from the Kansas City Royals as a guy they want to target in a trade to essentially play second base. But the Royals view Nicky Lopez as, somebody that provides depth, and they want to hold on to him. So there might not be anything there. Nicky Lopez, he had a decent 2021. Okay. And then he fell off in 2022. He would be perfect for the White Sox with their return to custom levels situation. But I don't know if I'm, trying to weaken an already weak farm system by trying to get Nicky Lopez now from the Kansas City Royals to play second base. It feels right now, Pat, like the brain trust is sitting around saying, oh, wow, we've got Romy Gonzalez, Lenine Sosa, and maybe Lurie Garcia vying for second base. Whoops. Somebody screwed up. I guess we've got to scramble now to find a second baseman. Why even Nicky Lopez? It's not like that's going to get tickets sold.
Yeah, I know. And it'd be very interesting, again, a trade within the division. Not that the Royals are going to be vying for this division this year, but you never know. Whatever you could trade away, it could come back and bite you. Again, there's not much in the farm system that you're going to be, I guess, really upset about losing, but you'd have to give up something. And I don't know that I want to give up too much of anything right now in the farm system. So that would be really interesting. It almost feels like, Kenny was out of office. He comes back and he sees Rick and he goes, Rick, what's going on? Hey, what's up? What's up? So did you take care of that second base thing? And he goes, oh no, I thought that was you. You said you were doing second base. I did. I don't remember saying that. Let me check my notes. And they go, oh shoot, what are we going to do now? I thought you were taking care. No, I was 100% sure that you were taking care of it. And neither one has done anything. So I don't know. I couldn't see.
Shocking.
I couldn't see that happening. I don't know what, again, I just, there isn't a player out there, I don't think right now, that the Sox are going to get to play second base or right field. It's going to be exactly what we thought was going to happen. It's going to be a battle at second base. And it's going to be an interesting conversation as we watch Aloy and maybe Colas decide who's going to play everyday right field, I suppose.
I just don't see Aloy Jimenez accepting the assignment.
He just goes out there anyway. He just stands next to Oscar Colas with his, he does like
Honestly,
the arms crossed, kind of like when he was
do you
watching
remember the
Robert
drama?
catch the ball in front of him.
The drama back in, what was it, 2016, I guess, at the beginning of that season. Was it 2016 with Adam LaRoche's kid and
Oh God.
Chris Sale, I think, didn't want him in the clubhouse in spring training. Adam Eaton's calling him the kid. Drake LaRoche, a leader. It's like, this is how we're starting the year with all of this nonsense. Sometimes I wish we had that compared to what we have right now with Clevenger and Jimenez and all these different holes that have never been filled during a championship window, right? This was supposed to be an open window, and we're really going to go for it.
Another funny narrative, a championship window and championships. Talk to me after the parade, all that BS.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm still looking forward to seeing what could happen. I guess the positive, Nick, will be that in going back and what we were talking about with second base with Lenine Sosa and Romy Gonzalez, those guys will get the opportunity from this manager, I suppose, to show if they can play, unlike the last manager who wouldn't give them the time of day.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't think, I think they're going to be given every chance to succeed, and we'll see what happens. But I think it's an in-house solution rather than trading from within division. I couldn't see that.
Yeah. I don't think it's a real thing, but the fact that you got a guy like Rosenthal talking about it, and the fact that second base has still just been a mystery. The Pedro Grifol connection with the Kansas City Royals, there's something, but I don't think anything's going to come of it either. Look, after all of this on this episode, the positives really just come down to what John Morrissey said a couple weeks ago on the MLB Network when he picked the White Sox to win the AL Central in 2023. Just stay healthy. Don't have to have career years. You just have to have solid years. Like play games, Tim Anderson. Like play 140 games, Luis Robert and Aloy Jimenez. And he's right. We know as Sox fans that that's a huge if. But you think about what could happen if you get those guys healthy for a majority of the season. It could be dangerous. I don't think I would say that in any other division, but in the AL Central, it's possible.
I suppose, Nick. And, I think we just need this Clevenger, fiasco to be put behind us and him to be, put away and never to play for this team. Doesn't he look like he smells? Or is it just
the optics aren't good?
He just looks stinky. He looks like he just needs a bath, and I don't think we want his stink in that uniform.
They wanted it, man. They wanted it in a bad way, right out of the gates. It was like he was white hot. Got to get me some Clevenger. And they got him, and now we're dealing with it. So, Pat, always a pleasure, my friend, talking White Sox with you.
Nick, I am looking forward to the next time we talk and having a positive. I'm going to try and come with some more positivity. I talked about this fan base being negative, and here I go for 58 minutes being negative. So I'm going to try really hard next week.
As a former teacher, I will give you a homework assignment. Give me 3 positives. Give me 3 positive threads that you're really excited about, something that is really getting you through these cold January, early February days.
Yeah. And as a former student, I'll wait for 5 minutes before the class starts to put my thoughts together.
I know you will. You'll probably get somebody else to do it for you. So I look forward to hearing what someone else thinks are the exciting things about the White Sox. Folks, if you're watching on YouTube, we do appreciate that. You can subscribe to this YouTube channel. We try to do these live shows every Sunday night. But we've been doing it for a long time. We really appreciate your support. You can find the podcast absolutely everywhere you find your podcasts. We're on Twitter at Good Guys TB. We've got that Facebook page, and appreciate if you pass it along to other Sox fans in your life. For Pat Hester, I am Nick Murawski. Until next time, go Sox.